Advocates Association, Shri K. Chidambaram, esteemed brother and sister judges, judges from the District Judiciary, distinguished members of the bar, ladies and gentlemen. Today we gather here to celebrate the 75th year of India's adoption of the Constitution. There is a deep sense of pride and achievement for the many milestones that we have attained over the decades. Consider the context in which we began our journey towards independence under the colonial rule. It was not easy. For the British, India was a huge landmass with an equally huge and complex population. What was missing was a sense of accountability to the Indian people as the source of authority vested in Britain and not in the Indian people. On the other hand, the mass of the Indian people who were the non-elite, the concept of constitution, democracy, or rights was alien. In many ways, their suffering, exploitation, and oppression made them realize the value of freedom and human existence. Indeed, it was a paradox that over time, even as the British themselves became democrats at home, they continued to deny to the Indian people their basic rights and freedoms. Therefore, the making of the Constitution by the Indian people for the Indians is not just a facet to be stated textually, but is an experience, a reflection of a deep emotion, philosophy, and a sense of belonging. On December 13, 1946, the objective resolution presented in the Constituent Assembly of India spelt out the vision of a new India. It declared that territorial unity and integrity of India should be preserved. As a sovereign independent republic, India would derive power from the people with social, economic, and political justice, equality, and freedom guaranteed to all Indians. It also declared protection and safeguards for minorities, backward, disadvantaged, and the poor. This spirit of the Constitution was later embodied in the preamble of the Indian Constitution, which was adopted on November 26, 1949. Throughout the deliberations in the Constituent Assembly, three concerns dominated the debates: national unity and integrity, democratic institutions, and social revolution in an interwoven way, as none of it was possible to achieve in the absence of the other. Parliamentary democracy with adult franchise was the obvious choice, given our familiarity with the British working in India. Clearly, from integration of princely states to centralized federation, which we call the Union of India, to fundamental rights, directive principles, and constitutional schedules, there is no better example of indigenization of democracy than that of India. While fundamental rights were borrowed from the American Constitution, India went beyond the formal equality provision to add substantive equality element by providing for reservations for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Again, it is significant to mention that the Indian Constitution, which had the rare distinction of being one of the most comprehensive constitutions of the world, with 395 articles, 22 parts and 8 schedules, when it was framed, began to seem inadequate in the face of continuing changes in the society over time, calling for additions and alterations in the existing scheme of things. Arguably, citizens' perceptions about events, situations, needs, and aspirations change over time, which has evidently resulted in 106 amendments to the Constitution of India till date. We can recall how institutional dynamics post-independence put the Constitution of India to test, as in the First Amendment to the Constitution in 1951. Subsequent decades brought into focus landmark cases, each of which, while raising critical questions of law on fundamental rights, basic structure, and parliamentary propriety, also shaped the norms and procedures of democratic institutions in India. Cases like Shankari Prasad, Sajjan Singh, Golaknath, Keshwananda Bharti, S.R. Bomai form crucial chapters in the constitutional history of India. Apart from this, a host of other enactments till date, like the Women's Reservation Act, the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act, Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2013, the Lokayukta Act, the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Act 2019 illustrate the adaptability of Indian legal system to change. India has also moved forward in the domain of rights. A wider interpretation of Article 21 by the Judiciary has brought some socio-economic rights from the directive principles within the scope of fundamental rights. Finding the right balance between the aspirations of a society and the sanctity of the Constitution has been a key element in India's continuity as an unfailing democracy. A combination of political and democratic institutions, including independent judiciary, free press, free media, a federal structure, and competitive multi-party system, among others, has all the way helped India to constantly invent and negotiate the contours of the Constitution to provide equality of opportunity, participation and inclusion for all sections of the society, keeping in view the specific regional, cultural, and economic realities of the time. Let us not forget that the mere existence of the Constitution does not guarantee a liberal state and can vary in form, content, and implementation. India has the unique distinction of adopting a constitution which has not only given us a sense of dignity, identity, and self-worth, but also an exceptional design for governance that has been a source of our strength, stability, and endurance as a democratic nation. Therefore, the sense of purpose, commitment, and faith invested by the founding fathers of the Indian Constitution must serve as a constant reminder for every Indian not only to respect the Constitution but also protect it in every way. Thank you.